What up, y'all? This is Patrick Hayes, and I decided to just go ahead and make this video outside. It feels way better. It's actually kind of in theme with what I want to talk about. So in this video, I want to talk about spiritual growth, and then I want to talk about a practice that I've been applying a lot recently, and it's the practice of blending the sacred with the mundane. And I think this is shaky a little bit because of the way I'm holding it, so I'm going to change my hand. So yeah, it's funny. I've been focusing so much on making sure that all my videos are really high video quality, but when I look back, the video that has the most views is one where I'm using the same camera and I'm just out on a path that's mind control. I actually even have a nose filter in that looks kind of goofy. I didn't know I had it in when I made the video, but that's the one that's getting all the views. So maybe it doesn't matter so much whether it's super high video quality or not. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you like it this way. It's at least more informal, and so it feels a little bit more natural than setting everything up and being super professional. So maybe I'll do some more like this. But yeah, so this video, spiritual growth and combining the sacred and the profane, sacred and the mundane, profane too. I guess that's the next step up. But essentially, the reason why this has been so powerful for me is because, as you can see, I'm outside right now, right? And I've come outside because I think better when I'm outside. I'm more expansive. I feel better. My energy field's bigger, and it just feels more comfortable. And I kind of associate the kind of activity of going outside and connecting with nature as my connection to the macro, to the big picture. And the big picture is really liberating in many ways, because when I connect to the big picture, that gives me the opportunity to see things more like how a God sees them. And I talked about this a little bit in the video I made where David Henry and I talked. But the idea of looking at it from the God picture, or the God perspective, and looking at it that way is like when I connect to the higher virtues, right? So I see the beautiful in things, I see the true in things, I see the sacred in things when I'm looking at it from the big picture. So I can be more grateful and appreciative of my life and all the things around me. And the challenge is being able to take that and bring it back into my everyday experience. So how do I basically bridge that sacred into the mundane? Now, it's really easy from like an outside perspective, for me at least, probably for a lot of people, to start noticing the beauty in the small things. So an iconic image of that is the sage in the mountains that pays attention to all the little insects, and like the way that the water turns and the way that the mountain like speaks to them. And in the subtlety of nature, they find this deep, vast meaning and beauty. And that's like that's a good example of bringing like the sacred into what could be considered the mundane, and actually realizing nothing's really mundane, everything's sacred. But how do we do that in like the technological world that we live in? See, the biggest challenge for me is like I spend a lot of time on the computer. I spend a lot of time working with technology, and just even the electromagnetic fields of the technology, which is kind of irritating to my body. But then the process that it puts me through, where I have to use a large portion of my mind and focus really heavily on a screen, it has a tendency to pull me out of that bigger space. So the question then, and the practice that I've been applying is, how do I bring that sacred into the mundane experience? And so how do I do that? And then what I've been applying is a reframing technique. So there's a form of reframing that I use to basically recontextualize the mundane activities that I'm engaged in, to bring greater meaning to them. So for example, I spend a lot of time on the internet, and I spend a lot of time on the computer. And what that kind of does to my energy field is it feels almost as if, in contrast to when I'm out in nature and I'm connected and I've been silent and present, my energy feels really big. But then, after meditating or whatnot, when I sit down at the computer to start working on something, it feels like, within an hour or a couple hours, my energy field gets very constricted and restricted. And it's almost like I'm a tube of toothpaste. You can think of like a tube of toothpaste. It starts squeezing my energy out of my aura and then out through my head, into this mental space where whatever I'm working on exists. And it's like you can see my whole posture change. I move from being like in this open space to like hunching over on the computer and like typing and whatnot. And in coordinates with that physical movement, I totally get out of whack. And so one of the biggest challenges I've had is how to, like, you know, bridge those two worlds. And you know, I think a lot of us have to, I know I definitely do, have the tendency to get wrapped up in whatever goal I have, whatever micro goal in, say, in the world. Say it's like developing an opt-in page and fixing this technology so the plugin's working on my computer, or the audio program I'm working on, you know, and get it all working and together. And then once that's done, once the job's done, then I go meditate, or I go on a hike and like rebalance myself. But the idea is, like, how do I actually bridge those two worlds? Because that's like ideal, right? So, you know, example of, you know, those two worlds being bridged, maybe even to a higher degree than that, is like the idea of a kung fu master that, you know, when he fights this person that's full of like anger and hate that's trying to hurt him, that he's actually feeling compassion for this person as he's fighting them. So, like, you know, he's in the act of engaging in violence, but he's doing it from a compassionate space. And that's true alchemy, right? That's true mastery, to be able to do that. So what I'm talking about is like a level beneath that. It's like, how do I just take mundane or like irritating technological experiences, or, you know, just it doesn't have to be technological, but it could be like, you know, a water main in your house broke and you're like, you know, trying to deal with that. Or, you know, there's like a nasty smell coming from the air vents. And like, how do you stay balanced when you have to smell like the smell of, which is something we've experienced recently, you have to smell the smell of like sewer in the house, which is gross. So, so how do you bridge those two worlds? And so the technique that I've been using that's been, you know, really powerful is reframing the context of what I'm doing to orient more towards the cultivation of virtue. And so this idea can kind of be applied to any context. And this is how I've been recontextualizing what I'm doing. So, you know, while I do have greater purpose behind the music I make and the videos that I make, because I'm trying to do something to, you know, be beneficial for the world, I can very much get caught in the micro view of it when I'm in the process of doing it. Meaning, like, while I'm trying to get this plug-in to work, I can lose all of my grace and lose all of my connection to the beauty in the world, and get kind of all out of sync and out of balance. And then just be like, well, I'm just going to plow through this to get it done, because my main goal at that moment, the highest priority, is just getting this thing done. So the problem with that is that when I act that way and say, well, I'm just going to get this done and then I'll go meditate after and rebalance after, when I operate in that way, the problem with it is that I remain in this like polarized existence where it's like one activity is like the grind and then the other one is like the release. And so I'm kind of like taking 3 steps forward in my spiritual growth and then like 3 steps back, because as far as I'm concerned, spiritual growth is about like embodying presence in yourself, embodying virtue, and being able to sustain that virtue in any environment. And so when I decide to forfeit the sustaining of those virtues in order to just grind through and get that thing done, it's not the best approach of developing myself spiritually. So again, I keep coming back to the same question. So how do I like merge those two? So what I've been doing is I've been recontextualizing what I'm doing and making a higher priority to focus on the particular virtues that I can cultivate while doing these seemingly mundane acts. So the 3 ones that have really been present for me in the process of dealing with technological things is focus, remaining balanced, and patient. And persistent too. So focus, balance, and patient, and persistent. And those have been really big for me because these are the 4 virtues that that would be like the antidote to my energy field becoming unbalanced. Or, you know, like that, like I said, like the squeezing of the toothpaste tube. So when I can remain patient, when I can remain balanced, and then I can also stay focused, and then I can also stay persistent, that's actually when I'm most effective. Right? And typically when I set that intention before I start, I can maintain that space for a lot longer. So what I've been doing is making that actually the #1 priority, beyond finishing whatever it is that I'm finishing, beyond doing what I'm doing. Now, sometimes, you know, if it's a difficult day, it's like, sometimes you feel like you just have to finish it, because it's like, you know, if you keep trying to become ultra balanced with everything you do, then you'll never get anything done. And so, you know, I've had to figure out how to keep that ratio balanced and make sure that, You know, in other words, I have to be okay with being uncomfortable and out of balance just a little bit. But the idea is to not fully let myself dissolve into unconsciousness, but always have like at least one toe in my grander intention. So that, you know, I might get a little unbalanced, I might get a little uneasy, but and might need to persevere through that. But to not completely forget that, you know, my greater intention is to be connected to this more vast, higher space. And making that the number one priority is what makes all the difference in the world. Because when I lose sight of the big picture and I make my number one priority whatever micro goal that I have, then I lose connection, and I really have to kind of, in a way, start from scratch, and build myself back up from you know, whatever imbalance state I'm in. But the more I can stay balanced, not only the more stamina I have, but the better I am at doing whatever I'm doing. My throat's kind of going here. But anyway, so essentially, I just wanted to share this process with you. I mean, this is something that's been that I've been going through, and it's and recontextualizing these things, or reframing the actual goal in my life to make the top priority the cultivation of virtue, and then figuring out through all the mundane activities that I do, which virtues can I most appropriately develop in this domain, and make that actually the top priority beyond just the micro goal that I have, is a way to really bridge the sacred with the mundane. And you know, it's something that's been really useful for me, and it's something I wanted to share with you, and hopefully it's something that you can use yourself. So thanks so much for tuning in. Patrick Hayes again. Let me know if you like this mode, and whether you would appreciate if I did more videos out in nature on my cell phone, and and put that in the comments below. So again, thanks for tuning in. This is Patrick Hayes. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll talk to you next time. One love.